Okay, good evening, everybody. Good evening, and welcome to the call for this evening. And I am now going to just put the We Are Live link into the Facebook group, and then we will get started. So if you have any questions, you can go ahead and start writing them in the box there in YouTube. Then while I kind of get these links situated, then we'll get ready to answer your questions. I do have something I will be covering tonight, and let's just put this in the comment area live. And then we will be ready to go. Okay, I'm going to turn on my presentation here. Let's switch things around. And I think that we are going to be ready. And let's go ahead and just get my screen view. All right, and I'm going to open up so I can see your questions. And as I said, if you have any questions, you can write them there in the live chat area. We're going to go probably, if 30 minutes. I don't even know if we're going to go 30 minutes. We have a quick but important area to cover. Okay, quick but important. So I'm going to open up the watch page here. All right. Okay, so hello to Jerry and Dana, and let's go ahead and get started. So this is our weekend Q&A, and for 12/9. And just as a reminder, on Tuesday, we're going to be releasing S2 Member PLR. If you are an Ultimate Insider, this is going to be part of your package, so you can let the other PLR users buy S2 Member. If you are an Ultimate Insider, if not, we'll have that ready for you on Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Anytime there is a new release or wherever our most recent release is, you can always find that at theplrshow.com/new. So even if you get to that URL before Tuesday at 9 a.m., you're going to find that our newest release will be there at theplrshow.com/new. All right. So I'm going to take your questions. So if you have any questions, I can see both Dana and Jerry. So if you have any questions there, you can write them there in the live chat area. And I'll take any questions that you might have. Otherwise, I'm going to cover research tonight. I'm going to cover research. Any questions that you have about PLR, you can write them there in the live chat area. I'll try to interrupt what I'm doing, and then I will definitely I'll definitely take your questions. Okay, let's see. So Dana's got a question, and her question is, okay, you mentioned that you purchased the design for your product covers. How or where do you do that? How would you describe what you want, and how detailed is the design when you get it? That's a great question. So I'll show you what I typically will purchase, and I'll get these sort of whenever I get the chance, and I have the presence of mind. Let me see if I can find. And let's see. I think I just have some e-covers. I'm going to pull this up on my hard drive. So just 1 second, I'll pull this up for you. And let's see, Photoshop e-cover graphics. Here we go. Okay, so I'll show you a sample of what I will typically buy. And this is, I think that these are part of one product, right? So all 5 of these folders. So I'm going to go into one of these folders, and I think that if you've seen one of these folders, you've probably seen all of them in some way. so so you're going to notice that inside of this folder, you're going to have the fonts. You're going to have previews. You're going to have PSDs. Now, the reason that you are going to have fonts is because whenever the designer actually puts them together, he'll tend to get fonts that are not part of your computer, and they're typically not going to be in either your Photoshop or whatever program you're using. And so if you don't get don't go and get the exact font, then your graphics program has to substitute. And so typically what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go and get the fonts that they say they're using. So if I look inside of here, this creator of the graphics actually gave me the additional fonts, or I obviously we purchased them. And this is a product that anyone can get, right? So I think that what I'll do is I will put the link to that product in the notes for this for this session. All right, so that's one thing, and then probably the most important thing is the preview. And so the first thing that I do, even before I open it up in in Photoshop, whatever graphics program I'm using, I like to take a look at the preview to see if I can visualize with it. And so I do this in Windows, and I will do this noticing, you can actually look at it as large as you want, right? You can bring this down, or you can do it with details. That isn't going to give you the picture. And typically when you get it, it's going to show you something like this. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go into Windows, and you're going to want to open this up all the way, right? So that it shows you the extra large images. And they're going to be in JPEGs or PNGs. And what I try to do then is I try to go through here and see if I can visualize using any of these to do what I need to do, right? So if I'm doing if I'm customizing a particular resource, let's say that someone is going to be purchasing something from me through as an affiliate, I try to customize something based on using one of these e-covers, right? So then once I go through the preview, then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open this up in Photoshop, right? So let's say that what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through these, and I like cover number 7, right? I like cover number 7. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the PSD files. I'm going to find cover number 7. The only reason I have to do this is because this is the way that the designer organized them. Not everyone's going to organize in this way. Some people are actually going to give you, going to name all the files. But again, that doesn't always happen. You're typically seeing what you would typically find if you bought a graphics package. And then I'm going to just open this up with Photoshop. And it's going to take me a minute. It's going to take Photoshop to open. And these are designs that I purchased on JVZoo, I think. Right, I purchased these designs on JVZoo. Now, the other side to that is you can actually go and I think I've done this on a number of calls. You can actually have designs created for you, be the most original, doing a promotion on, let's say, an affiliate product. I don't necessarily always feel the need that I'm going to have to go and have something custom created, and so this is good enough. You're going to notice all of the information here. kind of go in and I will, let's say I'll change this information, right? So maybe I might call this traffic profits, and then I'll just play around with the information. But I start with a design that's already done, and I buy these designs whenever they come up on JVs. Not whenever they come up, but typically, you know, if it looks like something that's going to be related to sort of what I do, then I'll get them, and then I work with the designs in Photoshop. Right? Does that answer your question, Dana? And I'll put a link to some of those in the show notes. And I'll put a link to some of them in the show notes. Oh yeah, okay, yeah. So you have some. So yeah, that's all. That's what I do. Right, and you can actually manipulate these. So I can probably just take this inside of Photoshop. I'm going to select all, or right, I can select all this. I can do a copy merged, and then I can create a box. Right, then I can open up another layer. I can paste this in here, stretch it a little bit. Right, and I think I said this, and actually I said this on our Ultimate Insider call, that because Photoshop is getting a lot smarter, it really isn't that great of a learning curve the way it used to be. And Photoshop used to be a real bear to learn, but you can do quite a bit, and you don't have to be a design expert or a Photoshop expert. So then all I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit the render button, and it's going to start creating the graphic. Do I ever buy or custom order? Yes, I actually do custom order. So I have a designer that I work with, and so he and I have been working together probably for about a year or so. And prior to that, I had another fellow that was recommended by Tiffany. Right, and I still work with that person from time to time, but I pretty much have somebody that I have a comfort level with now. So yes, I do custom order from one individual, right? And that's typically because I sort of know, he sort of knows what I'm looking for. I mean, I have some pretty specific, parameters. I don't like people in my images, mainly because we have such a diverse audience, and we have a diverse in terms of age, we have diverse in terms of gender, we have diverse in terms of ethnicity. So I don't like getting designs with people in them personally, right? So yeah, so in that case, I do custom order from, but I do that from one individual, right? Okay, any other questions? That's actually a great question, Dana. All right, so that's sort of what you would do to manipulate a graphic. and this month, we're doing in Ultimate Insiders is we are actually going through marketing graphics, right? So we're gonna do 4 sessions on basic marketing graphics, and then once that's done, then there will be a product ready for the general public, right? I'm not really sure when that's going to happen, but if you're an insider, you'll be there live, and then I'll have to take some time to edit the product and the whole deal, right? So if you're interested in that, I think I have the Ultimate Insider link here at the end. You can actually sign up with us and join us on Thursday nights. All right, now, so let's talk a little bit about PLR video. I didn't want that to come up that way here. I want to do a little something here. All right. So let's talk about a few assumptions about PLR video before we get started. Kind of the first one is that I always assume that's going to be part of your product and probably not the whole. I realize that's counter to some of the things you hear sometimes is counter to even the sales page that we put together. I know that a lot of people would like to be able to use the PLR product right out of the box. I don't recommend it. Right? I think that all PLR, even the best PLR, is best used as part of a product and not the focus or the whole product. The PLR that you buy should be answering some of the questions, but it should not even attempt to answer the most urgent. The PLR that you buy should build your authority if you are solving the most pressing problem, right? Because if you go and actually get PLR, let's say that someone else creates, and you sell it, right? I mean, you can probably make a few sales, but if you're solving a specific problem, then you really are going to make more sales. But you want to be the person solving the problem because you want people to associate the solution to the problem to you. And so any PLR video that is the assumption I always make at the beginning of every training I do about PLR video. You want to use PLR video to bring your students up to the basics. So in other words, you shouldn't be teaching things like how to go get a domain name. You shouldn't be teaching things like how to create a WordPress site. You shouldn't be teaching things like how to use anything that we do, right? So basically, one of the ways that you should envision the PLR I know that we create is that you have a membership site. You're teaching somebody something that's really high level and complicated, and then you're going to get someone else to explain the basics, right? You should not explain, let's say, optimized press. You should just demonstrate optimized press and solve a high level problem, right? Because people will pay you more for the high level problem. You take the PLR and put it in there to bring people up to the basics. You say, hey, you know what? If you don't understand how to use optimized press, I've got something in my members area. You can go pick up this course, or you can watch these videos. That'll show you how to get started with optimized press. We're going to focus on that when you talk about whatever you're going to focus on. Whenever you use PLR video, you can do it in your own voice if you create bumpers for your PLR video. Now, you can create them individually, or you can create PLR bumpers for one set of videos, right? So you can create a PLR bumper for all of your PLR videos. In other words, it can be something like, the beginning can say something like, we partner with marketing instructors to bring you fundamental marketing instruction, or something like that, right? And you just say something like, hey, we partner with people. They're giving you this instruction. Of course, this is so that you will not, you won't fall behind in the course. And anything that you really want to learn, we've put this course in our members area so that you can, focus on the real issue. Right? Does that make sense, everybody? So if you get that, please put the number 3 in the live chat box. Okay, so here's the most important thing. Okay, so the most urgent question is for you to answer. So the one of the things that you got to do when you're doing research is you got to find the question to answer, right? You got to find the answer, obviously. You need to make sure that you can sell that answer, right? So in other words, that's what people are willing to pay for. You need to make the sellable answer credible. So in other words, if you don't have enough credibility in order to sell the answer, then you go and get someone who has that credibility and you bring them in on the project, or you bring them in on the product by doing an interview. However you want to do it, right? But you need to make the answer credible. You need to make sure that, number one, that your customer is getting the answer to their question. And number two, they're getting a reliable answer, because you want them to be able to rely on the products you create. And again, so basically, you're building a wraparound on the PLR video. Again, I have nothing against you selling it outright, but I'm saying you can be a lot more effective if you take that PLR and you turn it into something that answers a specific question that people have. And then basically, one of the things I really wanted to point out to you is when you do things this way, you're basically writing your copy by designing your product to fit the need that the market has. So in other words, you're selling it with your design. And I've quoted this before, and I really do believe it. I think that it was said by BMW, and BMW says something to this effect. We already have a marketing department. Our marketing department is called engineering. What do I mean by that? Well, what they mean by that is they create things that, number one, that are of high quality, number two, that they know that people are going to need and want, so that when the product is done, that all they got to do is get it in front of the right person, right? So they're designing the right product to be sold. So it's not a matter of getting something and putting it before people and doing a shine up job on the copy, right? In other words, you don't want to take something and then get this whiz bang copywriter to sell something that's mundane. You want to take something and make it awesome. So in other words, take the PLR that's out there, let it explain the basics for you, and then answer something that people are really struggling with, and then make it something awesome. So if you don't know the answer to something, some question, or you can't solve that problem, go get somebody who does, and either bring them on as a partner, or bring them on as an interviewee, or or just make sure that you kind of give them something where they're getting the credit. Right? You're learning though, but you are actually bringing a credibility level to whatever it is you're producing. Okay, so again, now when you create this way, your copy is already written. And your product is probably already selling even before it's sold. Now, that's a bit of a play on words. And basically what I'm saying is that you've already determined that the market needs this. You designed something that the market needs. You've covered all your bases by using PLR. So now this thing, you're going to get it in front of the right people. Right? This is especially true in the make money online niche. This is especially true in our niche. And so in a lot of times, copy is great, but a number of you, if I were to ask you, right, you were probably already sold on something before you read the copy. So in other words, if your market is other people like you and I, then there isn't a whole lot you're going to do in your copy to sell us. In other words, I'm probably already decided. I'm just trying to make sure that this is going to be what I want. I'm not saying don't write copy. I'm not saying don't get a good job in your copy. And I'm not saying that you never want to hire a copywriter. What I am saying is that you also want to focus on designing something that is going to be unique in the marketplace and that people are actually going to want when they get it. Right, now let's talk a little bit about market research in that context. So, the question is going to be whatever niche I've decided on, right? So it's not a niche if people don't buy information in that niche. So again, it's not just a niche because you're good at it, right? You should be good at it. It's not a niche just because you know it. It's a niche if people buy information in that niche. So again, you and I probably have 3 or 4 things that we know better than other people. And I'd say 1 or 2 of those things probably fall in an area that people buy information. That tends to be the average. You already have something that you know. I can almost bet that you can probably find a connection between something you know really well and something that the market actually wants, right? I can go to Amazon Kindle, I can just do a search, right? That's the easiest way. That's an information product. So in other words, I can just go, again, this isn't scientific, but it pretty much is going to work, right? I can get a sense for, right? I can just go to Kindle, I think, right? And go to Kindle. I can go to the Kindle store. And I can kind of write in here whatever my, whatever niche I'm thinking about. So let's say I'm thinking about local business marketing. And the question is going to be, do people buy information? So there's 604 things in here. Here's something that's been reviewed, right? Here's something. So people are buying information, right? They're buying information. So I don't know if it's a huge market, but I do know that there are people who buy information here, and Amazon tells me basically that that's happening. So you want to find out if you don't see anything, right? If you don't see anything, now, yes, you could go into that market if you wanted to, but generally what you're saying here is that you want to find out if there's anybody out there who has ever sold something that people actually went out and bought in my general niche. You can check ClickBank, you can do the very same kind of search in ClickBank, see if there are information products there. if you're dealing with make money online, you have all the affiliate networks that you can actually go and check and see what's actually sold. JD Zoo, Warrior Plus, and then Zaxa, right? You can actually check them to see what's selling and what has sold. You can do a search, right? And again, if you don't see anything that is really remotely close to your niche, you might want to either narrow it down or you might want to build it up some, right? Now, or JV Share, right? JV Share also. And so basically, when let's say you have a list of things, once you've gone through that, you maybe gotten down to three or four of those 3 or 4 things, then you want to take the one that's the most pressing question. What do people need? What do they want? What do they desire? What do they fear? Right? Again, that's nothing new for you information marketers. I know you've heard that before, so that's nothing new, but you want to think about it in this context right now. And the question is going to be, now, once you know what that question is, how can you answer it? Right? Because again, that's the key to creating an information product, is how can you answer that? Are you going to answer that by creating a piece of software? Again, nothing wrong with that. In fact, a lot of people are doing that. And again, now maybe the process of actually having a piece of software created might be a little more arduous, but it's probably going to sell a little better than people when you're just selling something where people are learning something. Again, people place a higher value on software because they think it's going to do it for them, right? I mean, we all do that. So we all buy software, to some degree, because we think that the software is going to decrease some kind of deficiency we have. We think it's going to do something for us. All right. And in some cases we do. I mean, better that we get at buying products like this. We start to buy the right things, and those are the things that we don't have the capability to do without the software. So in other words, you can answer the question with an information product. You can answer the question with a software product. You can answer the question with a coaching program. You can answer the question with a webinar. You can answer the question with a video course. You can answer the question with a live event. How can you answer the question, right? How can you answer it? And again, when I say you, I mean you uniquely, right? You might answer this question in a way that somebody else cannot do it, and that's really where you might find your niche or your market. Who's already answering this question, right? So you can actually want to see who's answering the question, because you want to find out what somebody has already done, right? Especially if you're entering the market after somebody's done it. So let's talk about the question. I always like to assume that you're going to try to tackle one question per info product, right? So again, in general, people want to solve one problem at a time, and it's easier to sell an information product based on that problem rather than a whole host of problems. So in other words, we're going to solve the problem of creating your Facebook landing page for your ad as opposed to Facebook ads, right? Because again, now that's a smaller market, but then people know exactly what to focus on. I may already have a Facebook product, but I'm going to go and get one if I'm having problems with a landing page. Now I might have a problem with a landing page. I'm not going to go the other way. I'm not going to buy a more general Facebook product. I'm going to buy the ones that kind of suit my need. Now, once you find the question that needs to be answered, right? You can find those questions on social, right? You can do Facebook, Skype, or YouTube. What I want to say about that is that designate a time to do the research before you go on any kind of social media, right? So before you go on Facebook, before you get in Skype, before you go on YouTube, make a time for it. Put it in your calendar. If it's going to be 30 minutes a day, stick to that. Because if you don't, I promise you'll fall into a hole. How many of you here have fallen into a YouTube hole before? Going to quote unquote do research, right? Probably everybody, right? So again, what you want to do is when you start doing this, you got to go get and you got to sort of find somebody who can help you with the answer. Then if you're trying to find out what the questions are being asked, and so you got to get into where people are talking, right? That can be really interesting and really engaging. It can also suck up a lot of your time. So the question you want to answer, right? When you find out what questions people are asking, can you sell the answer, right? And this is where your research comes in. If you can't sell the answer to one question, then find a few more related questions to see, what the next level up is. Maybe you can sell that answer. And so then the question then becomes, how do you credibly answer the question? If you can find the answer on Google, so can your customer. So in other words, um, um, it should be complex enough that the answer isn't readily available on Google. It should be complex enough. Now, again, sometimes you're going to go, you're not going to see the answer on Google, and that's going to be because nobody's asking the question. But it could also mean that nobody knows the answer. If you can find the answer, and this is where your market research is going to come in, when you start doing research this way, you find a question that nobody knows how to answer, and you can actually go and dig and find the answer, and you get that question answered, you go to market with that, right? That's what you go to market with. You can go to market with that on JVZoo, Warrior Plus, any place. And basically, if it's in the market and people just don't know how to do it, but they wish they did, and the answer is not readily available on Google, then you've pretty much already sold your information product, right? So if you get that, please put the number 4 in the question in the live chat box if you're getting where I'm coming from, right? So once you do that, test your assumptions, then tweak your product, right? Tweak it, then launch it, right? Test your assumptions, tweak, then launch. Test your assumptions on Facebook. See if people are interested in that particular solution. Test it out in your blog, the people who are reading your blog. Test it out on your YouTube channels. In other words, you have regular subscribers and people who listen to you. Test out the content. See if it's something that's actually interesting to them. Test it out wherever your niche is hanging out. Now, I want to say this: when you start talking about being on the socials and asking questions, there's a difference between advertising, which is, hey, if you're interested in, I don't know, you're interested in how I went from 1 Bitcoin to 7,000, or something like that, then inbox me now. And I'm not talking about that when I say test it. When I say testing, what you're really doing is you're really saying something like, I don't know, I have been having a problem, let's say, growing my meetup, right? So who here has had success growing their meetup? And here's what'll happen, right? You're gonna get some people who are gonna say, yeah, you know what? I've had problems too. Or you're gonna get people who have answers, or you're gonna get people who have a mixture too. If you get people who have a mixture too, or you see people that are telling you that, well, hey, you know what? I've had a problem too. Then guess what? That's a product. Right? I saw that very thing this weekend. So again, what do we have to do? So either one or two things, right? So either one or two things at that point. Number one, you're going to tweak your assumption based on what you find, right? So you're already sort of going to market with something, but you can tweak your offer then based on what you find in your testing. Right, what the people are telling you, what they're really looking for in their own language and in their own words. Dana's asking, do you find surveys to be effective and honest replies? That's a great question. I think that there are ways that you can ask the question so that you get the answer that you want without it tainting the information. And so survey questions are an art. I'm not even saying that I'm all that great at it, but you do have to ask the right questions. So in other words, what I try to do, Dana, is I try to operate according to at least some of the, I'd say, theory, if you want to call it. There is some science on it, the way you're supposed to ask questions and get open-ended answers. Now what happens is you don't always get a lot of respondents, but you do get good answers. So I would probably say if you ask the question in a certain way, and actually I'm going to do, I've got something coming up in 2018 on surveys, right? I've got a PLR product coming up on surveys and how to do them, and actually the way that you and I should be asking questions. But you can probably do a little bit of Googling, and there's some science on how you ask the question, right? Sort of ignore the .coms on this stuff. If you want to kind of get into how surveys could be done based on the most recent research, I would suggest doing a little search on Google Scholar and seeing what some of the literature says on how you can ask questions. Again, nothing wrong with .com and professional information, but this is a little more scientific, and you can ask a great question. You're going to get good quality answers. Right, so that's a long-winded answer to your question. I find surveys to be effective when I'm not lazy about the question. So, okay. So based on then what you find, launch your product. Okay, so that I guess that's it. I thought I had more than that. So one thing I want to tell you about is make sure that you're getting our most recent recommendation, and that's actually I've actually got some survey market research products in there for the bonus. So if you're interested in that, you can get that at superfastactionbonus.com/new, right? And you can always find our latest PLR course. Now I think there's plrshow.com/new, right? And then there's a recent one, right? So I think we've got 2 courses that we've done recently, and you can get those at the plrshow.com/recent or the plrshow.com/new, right? And if you are not signed up to our daily newsletter, please make sure that you are. Go to the plrshow.com, put your name and email address in there, and we talk about PLR. A lot of times we talk about video PLR in particular, and you can do that at that address. And again, we will be writing you pretty much on a daily basis. I try not to not miss a day. Sign up for our Facebook group. We do post all of the replays there. Facebook.com/groups/the PLR show. And then make sure to subscribe to our training channel on YouTube, youtube.com/gain. Now, if you benefited in any way from this training, please do me a favor. Please give us a shout out at gainmindshare.info/weekend, right? And make sure to leave your URL in there in case we decide to use your words in our marketing. Okay, so once again, if you've benefited in some way, just give us a shout out over there, gainmindshare.info. That's going to be where we do all of our surveys and all of our information stuff. Gainmindshare.info. A little bit more about that coming up. And then, again, when you do that, make sure to leave your URL in there in case we decide to use your words. And I think that's it for today. So I'm going to leave that up. Any questions? Are there any questions? Any questions on anything we covered? Any questions? Okay, everybody. Well, I appreciate you all being here, and I appreciate you listening in. If you are watching by archive, once again, I appreciate you very much, and appreciate you watching. And once again, if we can do anything for you, please let us know. And with that, thanks. Have a great night and a pleasant tomorrow. Take care.